June 6, 1944. What if the men storming the beaches that morning weren't just fighting an enemy, but walking straight into a living nightmare where the ocean itself turned red and the sand screamed back at them? Because that's exactly how the story of D-Day begins. And if you think you already know how the deadliest battles of World War II played out, think again. Because the victories you've heard about aren't always the ones that truly decided the fate of the world. Now picture this: young American medics barely out of high school, jumping off landing crafts under machine gun fire, not carrying rifles but bandages, not aiming to kill, but to drag broken bodies back from the edge. And one of them, known only in scattered reports, crawled for hours across Omaha Beach with bullets tearing the sand inches from his face, whispering, "You're gonna make it, buddy," to soldiers who are already gone. And here's the twist that hits hard: some of the bloodiest battles ranked as victories were barely victories at all. Starting with Battle of Stalingrad on August 23, 1942, where entire buildings became graves before they were even fully destroyed, where soldiers fought room to room, floor to floor, sometimes hand to hand in darkness so thick you could hear breathing before seeing a face. And Soviet troops reportedly slept next to frozen corpses just to stay warm. And one German soldier later wrote that the silence at night was worse than the gunfire, because it meant the rats had come out, and those rats had been feeding on the dead for weeks. Now jump to December 16, 1944, the start of the Battle of the Bulge, where American forces were caught off guard in freezing forests, and medics had to amputate limbs with dull tools because frostbite had turned flesh black. And one medic described how he could hear men crying for their mothers through the snow, while shells exploded like thunder overhead. But here's where it gets real: some of those medics had to make choices no one should ever make, choosing who to save and who to leave behind, and sometimes marking helmets with chalk so others would know, this one's gone. And then there's June 4, 1942, the Battle of Midway, often called a turning point. But what most people don't tell you is how American pilots flew knowing they were likely not coming back. Some ditching into the ocean where sharks circled before rescue could arrive. And one survivor recalled floating for hours next to a fellow pilot who stopped moving but didn't sink, just stared at the sky like he was still flying. And speaking of skies, July 10, 1940, marks the beginning of the Battle of Britain, where young pilots, some teenagers, went up day after day, watching their friends vanish in flames mid-air, and one RAF pilot choked before takeoff, "See you for tea," knowing full well there was a good chance he wouldn't make it back. That dark humor keeping them sane in a war that didn't care about sanity. And if you think humor sounds out of place here, it's not, because soldiers often laughed at the edge of terror. Like one GI during the invasion of Iwo Jima on February 19, 1945, who reportedly said, "Well, boys, if we make it out of this, first round's on me," seconds before a mortar blast knocked him unconscious. And when he woke up, he was surrounded by bodies that hadn't been so lucky. And that's the thing about these victories: they came wrapped in horror. Like the jungle fighting during the Guadalcanal campaign, starting August 7, 1942, where soldiers weren't just battling the enemy, but disease, starvation, and something far more unsettling, the feeling of being watched at night, with reports of eerie whispers in the dark that turned out to be enemy soldiers creeping closer, or sometimes just the wind playing tricks on exhausted minds. And one Marine wrote in his journal that the jungle felt alive, like it wanted us gone. And then there's the lesser-known but brutal fighting in the Battle of Monte Cassino, beginning January 17, 1944, where Allied forces struggled for months to take a single fortified position, and medics worked under constant artillery fire, dragging wounded men through rubble that used to be a monastery, now reduced to dust and echoes. And one chilling account tells of a medic who kept hearing a soldier calling for help from beneath debris, digging for hours only to uncover a lifeless body whose voice had long since stopped. So what was he hearing? Exhaustion, imagination, or something else entirely? And here's where things get even heavier. Because while battles like Battle of Berlin, starting April 16, 1945, marked the end in Europe, they also revealed the full cost of victory, with entire city blocks turned into silent ruins, and soldiers walking through streets where the only sound was the crunch of broken glass under their boots. And some reported seeing civilians wandering aimlessly, as if the war had taken not just their homes, but their sense of reality. And when you rank these battles, it's not just about strategy or outcome, it's about impact. Because Stalingrad broke the German advance, Midway crippled Japan's naval power, Normandy opened the path to liberate Europe, and the Bulge proved the Allies could withstand one last desperate push. But none of that came easy, and none of it came clean. And the medics, the ones under fire, the ones who didn't carry glory, but carried the wounded, often saw the worst of it. The raw, unfiltered cost of war, and yet they kept going. Cracking jokes, humming songs, doing anything to stay human in a place that stripped humanity away. So when you think about which victories actually mattered most, ask yourself this: was it the ones that changed the map, or the ones that revealed what people are capable of surviving? And here's the real kicker. The question that should stick with you long after this ends, if you were there. In that chaos, hearing the cries, feeling the ground shake, seeing things no one should ever see, would you have had the courage to keep moving forward? Or would the horror have frozen you in place?